What's happening, guys? Exile baggage. Well, some of you may have met me in person recently because of the project I'm working on. I hope to make this video to bless you mainly because of the recent water shutoffs that we've experienced, some of which were planned, some of which you just didn't hear about because, sorry to say, some notices were missed or something happened, infrastructure miscalculations, or even today the contractor was working and unexpectedly they struck one of the water mains, so water's gushing into this pit, and I'm sure somebody was without water for at least a half hour or so, maybe more. So it's not fun stuff. I see the water department here trying to fix it. So this video is mainly for you all, but really I hope to address it to everyone who might watch my channel. So I'm going to speak somewhat vaguely, but I am here working in your city. I hope that things are well. And as I continue, I just want to let you know that this is not associated with or approved of by the city that you live in or my employer. It's just a personal insights because I have a wife and several children at home, a work-from-home mom, so to speak, a full-time mama, and I care about them a lot, obviously, and my own preservation. And so when things like this happen, these small disasters, it's a reminder that we have some needs. So I just prepared a video, or I prepared a sort of a script a little bit. I appreciate you bearing with me. I just did it for about 8 to 10 minutes on lunch break, sort of. And now I hope to make a 7 to 8 minute video. So here we go. Here's something important to commit to memory. It's from the Bible, and it says, "The prudent see danger and hide themselves, but the simple go on and suffer for it." There's a lot of ways that can be interpreted accurately, including physical needs, perceiving dangers and avoiding them, preparing a little bit for your needs in the event of a shutoff of something, electricity, water, etc., but also in eternity. And we'll talk a little bit about that perhaps later. So many disasters could hit us, whether it's something epic and biblical, guys, like war, famine, pestilence, wild beasts of the earth, which in modern times would be things like 9/11, right? Pearl Harbor, this sudden, unexpected act of war that catches people off guard. Thousands are killed, and the nation is shocked. COVID-19, famine, that's pestilence, actually. So famine would be just things that happen in Africa and throughout history, right? So COVID-19, pestilence, wild beasts of the earth, that's a little bit more tricky. I'm not sure how that works, but I believe it. People do get killed by animals, or perhaps there's symbolism there. Anyway, don't want to get to a rabbit hole. Many disasters could hit us, whether those things major or minor, like the water shutoffs that we already mentioned. And so here's some practical stuff, and then some eternal stuff afterward, if you guys can bear with me. So what I would recommend, obviously, with the water shutoff is, 3 days of water, because many of you in this city were without water for about 12 hours, especially if you were working from home. So think to yourselves, man, okay, so if I'm without being able to flush the toilet, take a shower, or drink from the faucet, what would be wise to have? So I would recommend 3 days of water in your home. The CDC/ready.gov, I think, even recommends this, to have at least 3, maybe a week's worth of water. Usually they say things like 1 gallon per person per day, basically. So if you live by yourself, have a good 3 gallons of water, maybe more if you want to have extra for cleanliness, washing your hands, etc. You could get a Costco 40-pack. I think that's about 5 gallons, the 40-pack of bottles from Costco. So just to give you a reference. One more item, a solar shower. It's about $20-25, and again, this is like if you wanted to stay home, if you needed to, and the power was out, for a day or more, especially if it's summer, you can get a solar shower. It's about a 5-gallon camp shower bag. You fill it up with water, and because it has a black backing, it absorbs the sun, heats it up. It might take a little bit, but on a day like today where it's like 90 degrees, it heats up the water. Then you can go back in your house, hang it up in your shower, and take a shower, even if you have no water. Obviously some soap, so maybe just 1 bottle of soap. Castile soap especially seems to be the most versatile. You can use it for the most things. And 1 pack of baby wipes. What else would I recommend? Climate. So we talked about water and hygiene. What about climate? Home Depot, it's not cheap, guys, but Home Depot carries a fan by DeWalt. DEWALT, the yellow and black power tools, if you're familiar with that. And they have a fan, and it's powered by the batteries, the same batteries that you use for your drill or your sawzall. You can use those batteries for the fan. So it's not cheap. It's about $100 for the fan, and then maybe between $50 and $80 for each battery, depending on how big of a battery, how powerful it is. I'm just guessing. So something to think about, to keep yourself cool when it's hot and you have a power outage. A little bit cheaper option would be just some wet towels. Soak some towels in water and hang them up near your open window, and the breeze comes in through your window, hits the water soaked towel, and cools down your house. Or if you really want to go all out, obviously you could consider something like a generator, or a more quiet version is an inverter that usually runs off electricity, perhaps solar power. So if you live in an apartment or a townhouse in the city and it's not really conducive to have a loud gas-powered generator, you can check into something called an inverter. There's different types, some cheap, some expensive. Some you can even hook up to your vehicle and send a little bit of power, so you can at least power your charge your cell phone at least, or maybe a fan. So that's something to think about. One more thing, guys. Home Depot has a pretty cool thing. It's about this big. It's an emergency phone charger. So whether you have iPhone or Android, you could just search emergency phone charger Home Depot and you'll see it. It's about $7, and it'll charge your phone from empty to full just one time. So thinking about the potential urgency of communication, if you were out of power for a while, you didn't really have anywhere to go, you couldn't charge your phone, this will help you communicate with your people for $7. So what else do we got? Flashlight with spare batteries, a set of batteries for the flashlight itself. You could put a little bit of electrical tape on the end of each battery to preserve it so it doesn't die, the batteries don't die. And then I would recommend just having backups, a whole set of backup as well. Matches and candles. Get candles and matches at the dollar store for $1 each. First aid kit, whatever you think's appropriate. $5, $50. Especially if it's dark during a power outage, you're more likely to trip and fall. It's just the fog of war, so to speak, and you want to make sure you can take care of yourself. Pepper spray or a knife. POM, P-O-M, Peace of Mind pepper spray has a good concentration. It's legal in Michigan, Midwest, where we are at, and I carry that on myself. I have my wife get one, and it's good. Gave one to a neighbor who was recently widowed. It's just a non-lethal but effective way to debilitate someone who might be trying to come after you, especially in a grid down type of situation where people might be more vulnerable. There's more darkness, there's more crime usually when power outages happen, especially if they're extended. So pepper spray. We talked about matches and candles. Food, 3 days of water. Why not 3 days of food, right? Peanut butter, some rice. Obviously you have to have a way to cook rice, so think about how you might cook it. You can check out another video I have on a rocket stove. That's more for if you live in a place where you can build a brick stove and burn a little bit of wood. You could do that in your parking lot, I suppose, if your landlord didn't mind. But a better option for you might be a Coleman propane stove, but make sure you open the windows, do all diligence to protect yourself from carbon monoxide. Get a carbon monoxide tester or whatever if you went that route. Be safe. So food, yeah, rice, some beans, peanut butter, salt, honey, all things that have raisins. They have a good long shelf life, relatively cheap, and balanced nutrition, I guess. So guys, there's some list of practical stuff. All these things remind us that we are vulnerable, right? We can't breathe more than 3 minutes. We can't go more than 3 minutes without air. We can't go more than 3 hours in a blizzard with no clothes, getting soaked. We probably will die of exposure. Can't go more than 3 days of water, 3 weeks without food. You get the drill. So we are vulnerable people. We need these things to live. And Jesus says, man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. And so this reminds us that we are not just physical. We are spiritual beings. We were made by God. He made our ancestors Adam and Eve. Adam had the breath of life breathed into his nostrils by God, and he became a living being, so he has an eternal soul. We're all going to die, right? Whether it be in infancy, age 25 in a car wreck, age 85 in our bed, we're going to die. and then we're going to meet God in judgment after we die. And so I would encourage you all, not only consider about your temporal or your physical earthly security and provision, but think about eternity. Remember how we talked about the prudent see danger and hide themselves, but the simple go on and suffer for it? We're all going to face judgment one day, and the only people who will have a chance to stand and not be in absolute terror by God's high standards — you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not murder, all these things — the only chance we have is to believe in Jesus Christ, that he was a perfect man who died in our place because we sin, we fall short of the glory of God. If you read more about what Jesus says about lust and murder, you'll see at the heart level that we're all guilty and we're in big trouble. So on Judgment Day, believe in Jesus now, rest in him, that he died for you, that he rose from the dead, and that he ascended into heaven, all the good things. Basically, that he is your mediator between God and man. There's only one, it says in the book of Hebrews, and it's Jesus. So you will be ready on that day, ready to enter into paradise and not into the pit, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Jesus says, he calls it the outer darkness. It's very scary. So that's eternal stuff, guys. We've talked about temporal things and eternal things. If you want to keep in touch, you can check out my other videos. You can email me or message me on YouTube. I don't know what my email is currently, sorry, but you'll see me around, here on this street in the city that I'm working in currently. Feel free to come up to me if you see me with a vest, my black hat, collared shirt, usually what I got. If you want to talk about these things, about practical things, about eternal things, I'd love to do that. I got to serve as a pastor for a year, went to Bible school for a couple years, and now I work construction, and so I have my feet in both. So the video is at 12 minutes, a lot longer than I thought. The Lord bless you all. I hope it has been helpful. And if you want to dig a little bit deeper into the rabbit hole of these topics, I could recommend 2 books. Both are by the same author, Mark Goodwin. The first one is called Black Swan. That's the series. It's Black Swan, and the first book is called Dysphoria, Dysphoria. You can check it out on Audible or whatever. And again, the same author. It's a funny title, but the second book is called 7 Cows, Ugly and Gaunt. It's a reference to the famine in Egypt in Genesis. And book 1 is called, actually I can't remember, but you can look it up. It's a good series. The first one, it's a financial collapse and survival. The second one, it's an EMP. The power goes out indefinitely. It's not coming back on. You can imagine how much chaos that would result in after a few days. So God bless. Take care. Fear, wage war, and pack up.